Good morning, students. Good morning to everyone. Okay, so as you can see on your screen, this is our topic for today. Okay, we are going to discuss the next type of good, that is inferior good, and what are the scenarios with respect to substitution effect and income effect in case of an inferior good. Okay, now as I told you yesterday that since I was not able to take the class, so I asked you to go through given goods and inferior goods concept. So based on that assumption that you have gone through, I want to ask that what is inferior good? I mean, what is the major change, or what is the major difference in case of inferior good than the normal goods? In respect to that, you tell me, what do you mean by inferior good?
Ma'am, inferior goods are those goods whose demand decreases when the consumer's income increases.
When the consumer
Whereas,
income increases, demand decreases. Okay,
whereas normal goods are those goods where demand increases as the consumer's income also increases.
increases. Okay, very good, Poonam. Very good. So the main difference, or the main, the main idea behind distinguishing this inferior good or segregating this inferior good from the all types of goods is that here what happened is either if the income of a consumer is increasing, we saw in case of normal good what we saw that the consumer's budget line also increased, his purchasing power also increased, and he started to buy more of some good due to that fall in that price. But in case of inferior good, that will not happen. Okay, here what happen is, if consumers income increases, if the consumer income increases, that does not make an increase in the demand of that good. Okay, the consumer will actually demand less. Now why this happen actually, and what happens, and what are the other consequent happenings due to this concept, that will be understood in this topic. Okay, can you see my screen? Check, can you see my screen? Just one of you unmute and tell me, can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Suddenly it stopped. I don't know why. Okay. So, what will. So, in case of inferior goods, what will be the case with respect to substitution effect and income effect, that we will learn in this topic. Okay. Now, say we are assuming a good X, and we are assuming that this is an inferior good. This diagram, why I'm showing you this word file. No, it is there. It is a copied thing from the link that we were sharing and discussing during the last week also. I have copied the material and pasted here. Why? Because in that link, no, this diagram is somewhere and description is somewhere. So I have copied it in a particular word file, and I'm showing you that. Okay, just a minute. Okay. Okay, so we are assuming good x and good y, and we are plotting details about that good x and good y in the x-axis and the y-axis respectively. So you can see in the diagram that good x details has been put in the x-axis, and good y's detail has been put on the y-axis. Now, if x is an inferior good, the income effect of a fall in the price of good x will be positive, because as the real income of the consumer increases, less quantity of x will be demanded. So this is coming from the general concept of inferior good, that if the income effect if the real income of the consumer increases, that means if his purchasing power increases, then less quantity of x will be demanded. Okay, thus the income effect of a fall in the price of x will be positive, because both will go in the same direction. Price will fall, demand will also fall. So why demand is falling in this case? It is going against the law of demand. Why this is so? Because this is in the case of an inferior good. We are considering the case of an inferior good. Okay, since the real income of the consumer increases, then less quantity of x will be demanded. Thus this income effect due to the fall in price of x will be positive, because when price is falling, quantity demanded is also falling. That's why it is said that this income effect in the case of an inferior good will always be positive. Will always be positive. This is so because price and quantity demanded move in the same direction. This is what I said just now. On the other hand, the negative substitution effect will increase the quantity demanded of x. Now see, if the price of x falls, then that substitution effect concept, what does it say? It says that now if the price of product x is decreasing, that means people will start substituting this product x for product y. That means they will now start buying more of good x than that of good y, because substitution effect is also coming into the scene. Because substitution effect will also come here, and it will show its impact. Okay, so the negative substitution effect will ultimately increase the quantity demanded of x. Now, this negative substitution effect is stronger. This is going to be stronger than the positive income effect in the case of an inferior good. Now, this negative substitution effect will be stronger. That means this impact will be more on the consumer than the positive income effect. Positive income effect means what? Price of x is falling, demand of x is also falling. Positive income effect. Negative substitution effect means what? Price of x is falling, demand of x is increasing. Both are different, both are converse to each other. But this negative substitution effect is going to be stronger than the positive income effect in the case of an inferior good, so that the total price effect is negative. Are you understanding? This negative in substitution effect will be stronger than the positive income effect. Okay, and this is happening in case of inferior goods, and this will happen in order to make the total price effect negative. Total price effect is inclusive of the substitution and income effect that we have already understood in case of a normal good, that total price effect is equals to the substitution effect plus income effect. So since this negative substitution effect is going to be stronger than the positive income effect in case of an inferior goods, thus the entire or total price effect is also going to be negative. Is also going to be negative, because if negative is more, negative and positive will obviously make negative, right? So the total price effect is going to be negative. It means that when the price of the inferior good falls, the consumer purchases more of it due to compensating variation in income. So ultimately, this is happening again that due to the fall in the price of an inferior good, the consumer will ultimately buy more of the quantity, because here this substitution effect will be stronger. Thus the entire or total price effect is going to be negative. If price effect is negative, that indicates what? Ultimately, if the price of the inferior good will fall, the consumer will purchase more of it, and this is happening due to the concept of compensating variation in income. Okay. This case has been illustrated in the diagram. Now we will understand these effects with the help of a diagram, and learning the diagram, understanding the diagram is very, very important. So in the figure, initially the consumer is in equilibrium. Initially the consumer is in equilibrium at point R with the budget line PQ is tangent to the curve I1. This is similar case like the previous one. We are taking similar assumption that this PQ is the budget line and the consumer is at equilibrium at the point R, which is a tangent to the indifference curve I1. Okay, same thing we are drawing. You should draw this diagram. When I'm explaining it, no, you should draw the diagram in your copy. All of you take out your copy and pencil, eraser, this scale. All of you take out those things and then draw the diagram. So the budget line is PQ, and at this budget line, the consumer is at equilibrium R, because this budget line is tangent to the indifference curve I1. Okay. Then what? With the fall in the price of X, he moves to the point T on the budget line PQ1 at the higher indifference curve I2. Here, you'll have to write I2. He is moving to the higher indifference curve I2 because the price of X is falling and thus his purchasing power is increasing. So let us see. Now he is moving to PQ1. So the price of X has fallen, thus the consumer has moved to the new budget line PQ1, where the tangent is happening at the point T with the indifference curve I2, and this indifference curve is at a higher position in this graph. Okay. His movement from R to T, or from B to E on the horizontal axis is the price effect. By compensating variation in income, he is in equilibrium at point 8 on the new budget line MN along the original indifference curve I1. So this is happening in a similar fashion like it happened in the case of a normal good. So I think if I explain in one line, you will understand it. So this movement from R to T, this is shifting, no, indifference curve is shifting, budget line is shifting from PQ to PQ1 due to the fall in the price of good X. When this budget line is shifting only on the horizontal axis, which is shifting, then we are seeing that this new budget line PQ1 is becoming tangent to a higher indifference curve I2, and it is becoming tangent at the point T. So this movement from R to T is nothing but your price effect. Okay, and this due to compensating variation in income concept, what we will do next? We will force the consumer back to the old indifference curve. And how will we do that? We will draw a parallel line MN to the line PQ1. All of you draw this, okay? So we will draw a parallel line MN to the line PQ1. Okay. If my movement of the screen disturbs you while drawing, then you can refer to the file that was uploaded in Moodle. A link has been uploaded. Open that link. In that link, keep that link open in your cell phone and draw and listen to my words, so that both of the tasks happen combinedly. Okay, you don't feel disturbed by my screen movements because I'm moving once to the description and once to the diagram, so that might give you disturbance. So what you do is you open the link that was uploaded in Moodle, named as substitution effect, income effect and price effect of a normal, given and inferior goods. That you open, last week only I uploaded, so that you open and then draw the diagram from that figure. Open this heading inferior good, this is the same diagram, and listen to me whatever I am saying. Okay, so we are just applying compensating variation in income concept and bringing the consumer back to the previous indifference curve I1. And how we are doing it? We are doing it by drawing a parallel line MN to the line PQ1. And this parallel line parallel line MN will be now tangent to the point H. Now this is a major difference. Okay, in last diagram, in case of a normal good, this H was between this R and T, but this H will be now drawn at a lower level. Okay, because why? This shift from PQ to PQ1 was not so much big, because there was a case of income effect in there, and that substitution effect being negative, income effect being positive, has given rise to a less negative price effect. That's why this movement has not been too much. This indifference curve you will draw in such a way that this difference from R to T will not be so much. But this difference from R to H will be bigger than the difference from R to T. Alright, what I mean is, when you're drawing the budget line MN and making it tangent to the indifference curve I1, then the tangent point should be at a lower level than T. Understood? That means the difference between R to H should be more than the difference between R to T. That way you will draw. Okay, so when we have drawn till now, let's see what happens. Now he is in equilibrium at point 8 on the new budget line MN along the original curve I1. He is back to original curve I1 and he is now in equilibrium at the point 8. The movements from R to H on the indifference curve I1 are the substitution effect measured horizontally by BD of X. So now the movement from R to H. Simply this movement from R to H. This happened in the last case also, but this H was between this R and T in case of normal good. But this H is now not in between R and T, it is beyond T. So whatever is the difference between this R and T is nothing but your substitution effect. R to H. Difference between R to H or on the horizontal axis B to D is nothing but your substitution effect. Understood? Price effect was R to T and substitution effect is R to H. Now let us move ahead. To isolate the income effect, now we will isolate, like last time also we were isolating the substitution and income effect. This time also we will isolate. Okay, to isolate the income effect, return the increased real income to the consumer, which was taken away from him, so that he is again at the point T of the tangency of PQ line and the curve I2. So what we had taken away, while we drew the MN parallel line to PQ1, we had taken away his extra real income. But now we will return this income which was taken away and then we will isolate the income effect. The movement from H to T is the income effect of the fall in the price of X and is measured by DE. H to T. Now let's see H to T. Now we are returning him back the income and we are sending him back to PQ1. Okay, we forced the consumer to come to the previous indifference curve I1 and he was at equilibrium H at that time. Now we are returning the income that was taken away and thus we are bringing him back to PQ1. Then he is tangent at the point T, right? He'll be tangent at the point T. So this movement from again H to T, this is negative. The movement from again H to T is nothing but your income effect. The movement from H to T is your income effect. Understood? So movement from R to T was the price effect. Then the movement from R to H is the substitution effect, and the movement back from H to T is the income effect in case of an inferior good. When the relation between price and quantity demanded is direct via compensating variation in income, the income effect is always positive. So this we had already discussed that if the quantity demanded and the price of the product is direct, that means positive. It happens in inferior good, right? Thus the income effect will always be positive. In case of an inferior good, the negative substitution effect is greater than the positive income effect, so that the total price effect is negative. Thus, the price effect minus BE, why we are putting it a minus? Because this is the price effect which is going to be minus overall, is equals to BD. This BE, BD is nothing but the points on the horizontal axis. See, we're just drawing perpendicular from the equilibrium points. We're drawing perpendicular from R, we're drawing perpendicular from T, then we are drawing perpendicular from H on the horizontal axis. And then when you're writing the formula, we are using this measurement on the horizontal axis. So this minus BE is equals to minus BD, which is the substitution effect, plus DE, because income effect is positive, substitution effect is negative. Thus, the total price effect is also becoming negative. What does it indicate if this substitution effect is written as negative? This indicates what? Listen to me very, very carefully. These are all tricky questions which might be asked, okay? You should be able to answer this. What does it indicate if this substitution effect has been stated as negative? It indicates that when the price of a good will fall, the quantity demanded of it will increase, because people will substitute this good whose price has fallen, and the consumer will buy more of this cheaper good than the other goods. Okay, so that is why the substitution effect is negative. Now, why this income effect is positive? This will happen in the case of only inferior good, because here when the price of a good falls, the demand for that good also falls. Understood? This positive and negative sign, if you are asked to explain, you will explain with respect to the relationship between price and quantity demanded. Okay. You will explain this in relation to the price and the quantity demanded. What happens when price increases? What happens when price decreases? Like that, you will have to understand this positive and negative signs of the three effects. In other words, the overall price movement from R to T. Let us see what is R to T quickly. Let us see. R to T. R to T. That means when the income when the price of good has just fallen and the real income of the consumer simple shift from R to T, from the lower indifference curve to a higher indifference curve. So the overall price movement, this was the price movement we know, which comprises both the income effect and substitution effect, has led to an increase in the quantity demanded by BE after the fall in the price of X. This establishes the downward sloping demand curve in the case of an inferior good. Okay, so although this income effect has been a positive one, being the demand increasing, price increasing, demand decreasing, price decreasing, still due to the role of substitution effect, the overall price effect is going to be negative and thus creating a downward sloping curve in the case of an inferior good as well. Understood? So we are justifying the law of demand actually. We are justifying the law of demand in case of an inferior good as well, because someone has already told that in case of inferior good, the law of demand is not followed. But still, we say that demand curve is a negative sloping one. So we are justifying it with the help of substitution, price, and income effect. We are justifying why the demand curve in case of an inferior good is also a downward sloping one. Okay, understood? If any doubt, you can ask me by the time I'm taking attendance. Okay, I'll take live attendance. So all of you, please be attentive. Respond to your name call. Excuse me. Abhay?
Yes, ma'am.
Aditya?
Yes, ma'am.
Alsaba Anwar?
Yes, ma'am.
Aman Goel?
Yes, ma'am.
Aman Sharma?
Yes, ma'am.
Ananta? Angela?
Yes,
Anish?
miss.
Anisha?
Yes, ma'am.
Ankit? Anmol?
Yes, ma'am.
Anmol Gupta, no? Anmol Gupta. First one is Anmol Gupta. Then Anmol Lama, Bhavesh, Bikash,
Yes, ma'am.
Vishwadeep,
Yes, ma'am.
Charu, Chirag, Deepika, Girish, Imani,
Yes, ma'am.
Jaya, Kashish, Meghna Jain, Mehul,
Yes, ma'am.
Parvin,
Yes, ma'am.
Muskan Agarwal, 21, Muskan Agarwal 21, Muskan Agarwal 59,
Yes, ma'am.
Neha, Nikhil, Nishita,
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Nupur,
Present, ma'am.
Piyush,
Yes, ma'am.
Pragati,
Yes, ma'am.
Prageshwar, Prashant,
Ma'am.
Pratham, Priti,
Present, ma'am.
Poonam,
Yes, ma'am.
Ronak,
Yes, ma'am.
Ravi,
Yes, ma'am.
Riyant, Riya, Rohan, Ronak Agarwal, Sahil, Shamma, Srishti Mittal,
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Sneha,
Yes, ma'am.
Saurav,
Yes, ma'am.
Saurav Agarwal, Srishti,
Present, ma'am.
Suhana,
Ma'am.
Sujit,
Yes,
Sohini,
ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
Swati, Swayam, Tanya,
Yes, ma'am.
Yash,
Present, ma'am.
Yashika. Okay. So attendance is done.
Ma'am, you didn't call out my name.
What is your name?
Yeah.
Ma'am, Kashish.
I called.
Mine's
No,
Priya.
ma'am, you didn't.
No, I called. You didn't hear. Maybe due to network problem. I called.
Ma'am, I also missed my name too.
Girish. Okay, fine, fine. Okay, no problem.
Ma'am, you missed my name too.
Ma'am, mine too.
Baap re. Acha, okay, I'll give all of you attendance. Go. Take a break. Relax. Bye bye. See you tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow is Saturday. I'll inform either I'll take class or offline activity, okay? Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.